Summer on the Great Terrace at Iford, and what a beautiful day to be here. We've got the heat haze rising and the sound of tedding of the hay in the valley below, and of course the smell of roses, the scent coming off the columns adorned with these beautiful plants. And on a day like this, you'd be forgiven for thinking that it's been a lazy summer, but it's been anything but. Just 2 weeks ago, in the slightly inclement weather, we had the Bounce Back Festival over the river in the archery ground, and there were 3 days of lovely concerts with the Academy of Ancient Music's Baroque masterpieces, then Claire Martin with some jazz, and all wrapped up by the magnificently entertaining King's Singers. It was a really enjoyable festival and gave a sense of normality not only to those musicians, but also to the 500 or 600 people that took part as the audience. And it was wonderful for us to welcome people back too. You might also be interested to know that we're a finalist in the Muddy Wilts Arts and Venues category, and it'd be lovely if you could vote for us, so pop on their website if you would and just click in the box. It would be so nice for the team here if we could win that. We've also just come off the back of a really busy weekend with Butterfly Day, the one day of the year when we open up our conservation meadows, which we maintain really for the birds, bees, butterflies and everyone else who inhabits our valley that isn't human. It's a lovely day. Working with RSPB, Butterfly Conservation, the Swift Group, the Vincent Wildlife Trust and Nolene Beasley, who does crafts for the children. And people can come and really learn about the wildlife that lives with us and inhabits the valley. Now, I caught up with Hugo last night to find out what was going on with the moth traps this year. So here he is. Well, I've just ambushing Hugo Brooke, who is setting up the butterfly conservation traps for the evening moth count. Hugo, what's going on?
Well, we're setting up 4 traps in the estate tonight, and just to see what we find. We've got a big target of 155 to beat, but it's a good warm muggy night. We might get there.
Great, not too much moon?
Not too much moon, there is a bit, but it's not bad.
And these traps are based on
These are 125 watt mercury vapor bulbs, quite powerful. Don't stare at them because they give out a lot of UV light. Got one here, and we've got one rather deeper in the wood over there. And you'll find you get completely different species in the 2 traps. I mean, some obviously will be common, but you get a lot of different ones. That's why
fantastic.
We do that.
Well, we'll catch up with you tomorrow and see what we've got.
We look forward to
Great,
it.
thanks Hugo. Now, in the end, we had 120 species caught. One of the traps sadly failed overnight. But it's a great score, and it does show the diversity of moth life in the valley. And here are some of those wonderful species in their net during the day. And you can see the wide variety, beautiful species of moths here. Of course, they're all released at the end of the day back into the wilderness whence they came. Now, we also enjoyed music from the Cheddar Valley Youth Brass Group, which was a really wonderful way of livening up the field. And that was in partnership with the Wells Orchestra Weekend, Wow Fest, the youth festival for orchestras, which was, of course, finding it difficult with venues this year. And we were only too thrilled to be able to partner with them for some music. And over in the cafe, we had a stall where we could really get into the bat topic of the moment. Of course, our roost being important for greater and lesser horseshoes, amongst other species. Right, it's been a busy day at Butterfly Day, and I'm here with Tom from the Vincent Wildlife Trust. Tom, you've been surveying our bats in the roof spaces. What do we got at the moment?
So we've got 2 lesser horseshoe bats on the camera here, just showing them upstairs. They might be quite tricky to see, but they're just there and there. Looking at it last night, there's well over 100 in there, but we've put some of them around the corner. And on the other screen, we've got a recording of the greater horseshoe bats that are over the road. So it's really nice here at Iford how you have the 2 horseshoe bat roosts for both species. It's not very often you get something so close together, or such a concentration of bat biodiversity in one place. So people are very lucky here, there's a lot to see.
And VWT monitors and manages the roosts annually, that's the point, isn't it?
We've been monitoring and managing the greater horseshoe bat roost over the road for some years now. But your lesser horseshoe roost is quite a new venture, and I've been having great fun looking at that, so that's nice to see those as well.
Great, well, long may it last. We've got 11 species of bat in just this little space of the cafe.
I think so. I mean, it's great habitat, isn't it? The reason the moths do well is the same reason that the bats are doing well. There's lots of them to eat. There's brilliant places for them to roost during the day. They've got everything they need here, so it's
Brilliant.
really
Great. Well, long may it continue. Thanks, Tom.
No problem.
Cheers. The keen-eyed who visited the garden will note there's been quite a lot of thinning out to be done over the last couple of years, and that's change which has been necessary for the renewal of the garden. But change is still afoot at Iford, as you'll see from this little interview with Troy. Good. Well, so I'm sitting in the Casita garden with Troy Scott-Smith, our head gardener, and it's the most phenomenal weather, isn't it? It's
a first proper hot day, I think, isn't it? What did it get to, I think? About 30?
Yeah, I think probably 29, 30 in the yard.
100 in the greenhouse.
Yes, it was only 100.
Yeah.
I've lost the bet.
Hot enough.
That's a pint for you then.
Yeah.
And one of the things I thought it'd be nice to do is to just have a think back, really, for 2 years, I suppose. It's 2.5 years since you were consulting for us, really, to see some of the projects that we've really done over the time. Because a bit of sad news, which to us sad, I'm sure it's great news to others, is that Troy's actually going to be leaving us soon to head back to Sissinghurst, and certainly a second turn of your full circle wheel, now third time at Sissinghurst,
Yes.
is that right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Do you want to say a few words about that?
Yeah, it's, I mean, mixed feelings, of course. When you change a garden, it's quite a big deal because, you put a lot of time and emotion into the garden, or you should do, and it's not something to do lightly. But going back is easier because it's a garden that, of course, I'm very familiar with, a garden that I'm very fond of, a garden that really taught me how to garden when I took my first job there in 1992. With my first job that I could have stayed in, my first being a full-time job. So, yeah, really happy to be going back, but then, of course, with feelings of a sense of sort of loss from inevitably missing what's happening here.
And a big project plan that we have going on.
Yeah,
I mean, we've got a lot done, I think, actually.
Yeah, I think so. I think the 2.5 years, 2 years has been a useful time. I do feel that it's we've achieved a certain amount. I mean, and yeah, I think thinking back, reflecting on what we've done, a lot of sort of really unglamorous work.
Yeah,
but
very
stuff
cyclical
that
gardening,
needed to be
actually,
done.
wasn't it? A lot of
So yeah, for sort of basics really,
Mm.
getting a few systems in place, thinking about composting and tools, thinking about health and safety, all the boring things, but then also getting involved in some enhancements and some improvements.
I think maybe we're being a bit coy here, actually, because there's been an awful lot more done than that. I mean, from the meadows, which we had to take in hand, stuffed full of ryegrasses, and not really doing anything other than hammering away at the roots of the apple trees. And now we've got beautiful wildlife-rich meadows out from the Exedra in the garden. That's a project I'm particularly proud of, because
I think that's the one that we started on really early as well. August 2019.
actually before you were here full time.
Yeah,
really.
we trimmed that down. Really took it down, opened up the sward, so then we knew we could get the rattle in there that autumn for germination through the winter. And it has paid off now. There's,
certainly
the
has.
grass is less rank and tall, and there's more space in there.
We've got the cherries in above it.
Oh gosh, yeah, I
For
forgot
the
about
for
those.
the
Yeah,
Sakura
the
project,
Sakura, yeah.
we brought 31 cypresses into the garden,
Yeah.
introduced those.
Yeah.
We've taken an entire border out for renewal on the roadside.
Japanese
Yes.
collaboration
With the Japanese Garden Society.
Yeah. Some of the upper canopy was out of scale, dangerous in places.
Absolutely.
Lower down sort of moth-eaten shrubs that just needed to be pruned. So it's that balance really of doing enough to make a difference, to create spaces to plant the new stuff, but not leaving it too bare and open that it looks like it's been worked on too heavily. I think we just about got that balance. I feel like we've done enough to make those spaces, but they do need to be filled now with plants. And not that it's tricky, but it's that requires then that degree of intimacy with the garden. You've got it, your father's got it, but for the team we needed to develop that because the new plant palette you bring in needs to be the right palette.
Absolutely.
And you need to firstly sit on a garden for a while just to understand the soil, the topography, the weather, springs, dry spots, and then just the feeling as well, the feeling of what plant's right.
There's a lot of intuition to gardening, isn't
Yeah, there is. I think for me, it's always that intellectual starting point where you need to think and study and research and read. But then the act of it should be very instinctive. You should just, be taking your cue from the garden.
And I certainly feel that's how you've approached the Great Terrace. I mean, the borders are looking fantastic. Obviously, a number of legacy plants there, and lots of little Troy Scott Smith touches, which I'm sure will persist many years into the future, which is great.
I think with the Great Terrace, it was easy to make those little embellishments for spring, because it's quite ephemeral stuff, whether it's tulips, or a range of bulbs, or maybe biennials, wallflowers, the honesty, the sweet rockets. Where we haven't added too much is the later perennials, because there's a job to do here. I didn't want to be adding too many perennials that ultimately will be taken back out. But yeah, I think it's a really exciting time for Iford, for a new person coming in. Lots to do, as there always is. But great place, and I will, genuinely look back fondly to my 2 years and miss it going forward.
Well, we'll certainly miss you, Troy. But it is an exciting time, and I think as we move into this sort of phase of regeneration rather than removal, we can really turn this garden into something that is really amazing. I'm excited about it.
I'm amazed, that word now, but I'm amazed at how many people really love Iford, and perhaps I shouldn't be, because that's why I'm here.
Sure.
I first saw Iford from a valley floor, and it's this magical thing about it. It always has that. It's that garden that people have heard of, possibly haven't been, probably haven't been, because we don't get too many visitors. But those that find it, make the effort to come, don't forget it. It's a sort of garden that kind of just connects with people.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And it's easy to make a garden in one sense. But gardening's is quite tricky. But to make a garden with atmosphere is almost impossible. It's either here or it isn't.
Yeah, and it's something to do with the extant substrate, and it's something to do with what's been before, and it's something to do with the magic of Peto's fragments, which he places everywhere, and it's something to do with the fact that maybe it's lived in, which I think has a significant impact on the soul of a place. And you're right, it is one of those places which just, it grabs people in a very broad sense, doesn't it? I think from the Orient to the Occident and everything in between, there's something for people to hook into, and that maybe is what Iford is about.
More than the garden, more than the sum of its parts. You see music and people reading and reciting poetry when you come around the corner. It's great. It's
and that's just a normal open day.
Yeah. That's just for gardeners.
Brilliant. So if you think you might be Iford's next head gardener, do drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. Now, over in the cafe, Jack Brewer, our head chef's very excited because she's launching a series of supper clubs this month. The first one's on the 23rd of July. It'll be a wonderful evening of North African and Middle Eastern food. The restaurant is really abuzz with people coming in for a platter of smoked salmon, a cup of tea here, a scone there. But one of the things we really wanted to do was to bring in the fine dining element. And Jack is, of course, the person for that. And finally, we have a holiday cottage launching. We've been renovating and restoring it for the last few months, and now it's ready. It's the old stable cottage with the old stable panelling inside. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's a 3 double-bedroom cottage. So if anybody fancies waking up and popping into the garden at Iford at dawn to see the chorus, or in the evening as the sun sets, then this is your chance. Now, lots going on. And next month, there's even more things to think about as we look ahead to the autumn and the winter. But for now, I think that's probably enough. So we'll see you next month.